Vayeitzei. Thank you to Torah Anytime for sponsoring, for putting up this shiur, as they do and teach Torah to so many people. Tonight, Zera Shimshon Shiur is sponsored by Nishma Shalom Ben Tzadok and Anonymous, to be a schus for everyone to have more shefa. Shefa. Okay, Kadosh Baruch Hu should help us. We should all have hashpos taivas. Maybe we'll learn from this week's Zera Shimshon the soid and the key to shefa. Efshar. Yaakov Avinu in this week's Parshas, Sula Mutzav Artza V'Roshim Agia Shamayma, shows us how the shefa comes down through him. Let's see. We're going to do page Shin Gimel, letter Yud Aleph, please. It begins with a quote from the Gemara in Baba Basra, Kuf Chav Gimel. Baba Basra is what the Olam is learning in Daf Yomi. Almost done. About 10 days away, Be'erach. That's right, you're about 10 days away. Now, where the Zera Shimshon is going to focus on this Gemara, the encounter of letter Yud Aleph, Rabbi side letter Yud Aleph, the encounter of Yaakov and Rachel. Let's start with the Chumash. Yaakov Avinu sees Rachel. They're at that well where he rolls off the stone. Vayaged Yaakov LeRachel, and Yaakov tells Rachel, Ki achi aviyahu, I am your father's brother. Achi, your dad and I were brothers. In the same pasuk, V'chi ben Rivkahu, and I'm Rivka's son. Isn't that contradictory?
Yeah.
That he doesn't say.
Wait, what is it?
He doesn't say I'm Rivka's son. I'm your first cousin. Zera Shimshon. He married his first cousin. A brother and sister did a shidduch. Mama Zera Shimshon.
No.
Right? No.
If it's
But he says
father's brother, that's her uncle. Right?
Rachel and Yaakov were first cousins.
Right, but if you're saying that I'm your father's brother,
That means I'm your uncle.
Correct.
Of course, yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, Vayeitzei. Thank you. But is that true?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
So what's he saying?
Yeah.
And Yaakov was supposed to be Ish Emes. He's only saying the truth. Correct? The Gemara wonders about this. The Zera Shimshon quotes, "The Gemara Baba Basra by Yagid Yaakov LeRachel," and he told her, "I'm your father's brother." Vos tutzachdo. Let me read for you the Gemara, because the Zera Shimshon just gives us excerpts. Let me tell you the Gemara. Says the Gemara as follows: Vayaged Yaakov LeRachel ki achi aviyahu, v'chi ben Rivko. Frekt the Gemara v'halei ben achos aviyahu. That they're not brothers. They're not brothers. That's your uncle. Your uncle, because you just said you're Rivka's son, and Rivka and Lavan are brothers. Ela Amar La. The story goes like this. Yaakov told Rachel on his first date, the first time he met her, will you marry me? He proposed at the well.
So it's a basho, basically.
Basho?
No,
Basho. Where's all of our Hasidish? I'm looking around. They're only Litvish here today. Yeah.
Not only that,
There you go.
They're not here yet.
Not
only that,
McKibben.
he had all the things to go with it.
Yeah, so, he says, Mincivally, Rachel was okay with it. Rachel was ready to say yes. She says, you got one problem. You got to get through my daddy. You have to get through dad. Dad's not going to be so maskim. Amrale, in. She said yes. The girl said yes. In. Gemara says, she said yes. But, miu, however, Abba Ramohu, dad is a Ramai. That is a sly individual. He's the kind of fellow you shake his hand, you count your fingers. Okay? Dad is...
Dad or brother?
What? No, what?
Dad, her father.
Her dad. Her dad's he's a Ramai. V'lo yochlislei. And she said something else. You are not going to be able to outmaneuver him. You're not going to be able to outmaneuver him. Amar Lo, my Ramuse. What's his beef? What's the Ramos? Like, what's the big deal? Why you want to marry me? I want to marry you. Ma baya. What's the problem? Amrale isli achaisik shishaminoi. I have an older sister, right? And in Yiddish they would say ba'ins fiat menzach. That means etzleinu hagedoila goes before the ketana. So my older sister comes first. He's not going to let me get married before she gets married. According to Ohr Chaim HaKadosh, Gedoil and Ketana, he says that Rachel was still a little girl, maybe only 7 years old. Leah was already 16, much older. So there would be, Gedoila doesn't just mean because she was, let's say, heavier. Gedoila and Ketana means one was an adult and one was still a child.
She was literally saying a nevuah.
What I was saying in Nevuah?
She was saying a nevuah, right?
No, she's not saying in Nevuah. She's saying Dad is a Ramai. You're not going to be able to marry me first. Amar Lo. You know what Yaakov said back? Ochiv ani beramaus. Ich bin sein Bruder. I'm his brother. It's beseder. We're two of us. I can do the same thing. I can beat him. He has experience, like we talked about last week, right? He got Esav vayakveini ze pamayim. As we learned last week, vayakveini ze pamayim. It's beseder. I can tell you, Yaakov Avinu was quite confident that he had no problem taking care of Lavan. Here comes the question, gentlemen. Zog de Gemar Balt. Amralei. So then she said to him, and you can see it in the Zera Shimshon, Amralei, Mishari letzadiki lesguye beramoyos. Do you mean to tell me, Yaakov, that you are proud and you are capable and that you are as conniving as my daddy is? Aren't you a tzaddik? I understand Dad is like that, but ma pitom, how are you allowed to do this? Oh, are you kidding? Memeg, you're allowed to. Memeg foppen yena, you're allowed to fool somebody. You're allowed to do that. In, says Yaakov Avinu, im navar, if a person is straight, so then tisbarer. V'im ikesh tispatel. If somebody is straight, if someone's straight, you have to be yashar. But if he's ikesh, if he's sly, then you can be sly too. So because I am just acting to him the way he's acting to me. Nachon? Says the Gemara, therefore Mosar lo simanim, that's why he gave her the simanim. And as we know, Rachel gave the simanim over to Leah afterwards. That's the Gemara. Now, with that background, says the Zera Shimshon, I want to understand, what was this conversation between Yaakov and Rachel? Meaning, yesh ledaktek, ma'ise kavonas Rachel shoyse severis leishor letzadike, v'ha'im ikesh tispatel v'korahu v'svarahu. It l'chayra, what Yaakov Avinu said, that all I'm doing is just making sure that this person doesn't trick me, which is l'chayra a pasuk, but it's also very logical. What, you're supposed to be a sitting duck? You're supposed to let somebody just go ahead and fully rip you off? Avada Yaakov is right. If somebody's trying to snatch something from you that belongs to you, shouldn't you go ahead and fight for yourself? Shouldn't you? What, are you supposed to let yourself be a nar?
You don't have to be sly.
They once said, I have to tell you over, somebody once went to Reb Nachum Partzovitz. They were learning a complicated Gemara in Baba Basra, talking about Cheskas Habatim. This, I think it was Reb Nachum, or maybe it was Reb Gifter. The Gemara had such a complicated svara about this taina and that taina. So somebody asked the Rosh Shiva, says, Rebbe, you're talking about regular people. Some of them Amaratzim. Who's ever going to think of making such a taina? So the Rosh Shiva said, Tzadikul, an am oretz. Like sein Geld is our Kiveger. And am oretz, when it comes to his money, is there a dreikop. He can drei like Reb Kiva Eger. And am oretz can sein of zweite Sachen and other things. When it comes to sein Geld, that is Reb Kiva Eger. I can Zeir get. He knows very well how to drei. So, if somebody's coming to try to take your money away from you, if somebody's trying to fool you, so says the Zera Shimshon, of course Yaakov Avinu is right. So what's Rachel's taina? V'oimikesh tispatel, krohu v'svarahu. And what did Yaakov, Maheshiva Yaakov, and what did Yaakov answer? That's question number one. V'chein nami, domina b'medrash, Al Aposik, Vayesef, Lavan, Yosef, Lavan, Vayas, Mishta. Lavan gathered everybody together and made a Mishta. I have to read for you the Medrash over here as well, to give you the background. What happened on that fateful night? It's actually, the story started before the night. Yaakov Avinu makes a deal with, let's just be clear, Yaakov Avinu makes a deal with Lavan, Lavan makes a deal with Yaakov. 7 years you're going to work for me, and then I'm going to give you what Yaakov asked for is Rachel bitcha haketana. I want Rachel bitcha haketana. Fine. A deal's a deal. Says the Medrash as follows. Vayes of Lovin is called Ansha Mokam Vayas Mishta. He gathered everybody together to make a Mishta before Yaakov showed up. A few days early. Kines kol Anshe Mokamai. He gathered together everybody in the whole city. And he said to them, Amar lehem, Yoidim atem, do you all remember? Shahayinu dechukim lamayim. We didn't have any water. Remember how we used to have to go gather together the Adorim and the Gololesa Evim Api Abe'er? That was before Yaakov Avinu showed up. Kivan Sheba, listen to the way Lavan is talking about Yaakov Avinu. Kivan Sheba Tzadik Lekan Nisbarchu Hamayim. Ever since he showed up, there's been water everywhere. In other words, like they say, when the tide rises, all ships rise with it. Yaakov Avinu is here, he's making everybody wealthy. There's water for everybody, and since Yaakov showed up, our life has been amazing. You know what he wants to do, this guy? He wants to take my daughter and leave. You think we can let him leave?
He's good for business.
He's good for business. We have to keep him here. Amrin lei ma hanilach. What can we do for you? How can we help you? Said the people of Charan. Amar lahain in bayin, if you would like, aton ana mirami bey v'yohav le'leah. You'll help me. We'll give him Leah. This way, duhu richim lahador Rachel sagi. He really likes my Rachel. If we give him Leah, we can milk him for another 7 years. Okay? So let's do it. Zeu. Kulam atem shutafim. You're all my shittif. We're going to do this together. Biyachad.
He was in 7th
What's that? We're going to do this biyachad. Amrin lei. Okay. Ma ovdin. Amrin ovdin ma dahani loch. We'll do whatever you tell us. We're in. We're in. First of all, I want to guarantee. I want every you fellows, give me a mashkin. Nobody dare say what we're about to do. In other words, Lavan wasn't in this on himself. Lavan got his whole town to be on this. Otherwise, he sold them on this because it's not for me, it's for you. Okay. V'yavan lahain mashkin. They gave him a mashkin. This Lavan, you know what he did with their money? He went out, says the Medrash, he bought meat, he bought wine, he spent all their money on the chasana. Okay? Right? You know whose money he used? Yenam's geld. So he gets all of their money. Zok der v'hava loma nikra shemoy Lavan Arami. If you want to know why he's called Lavan Arami, very simple. Because look what he did. He got everybody to pay for his wedding. Then, Sherima ba'anshe mekayma. Kula yom have mechalan bey. The whole day they were getting ready for this wedding. Kivan da'al beramsha amar lahain ma'u kedain. Why there's so many people over here? Why there's so many people? Amar lahain, they said, Ad gamal chesed b'schuseich. It's thanks to you that we have this chesed, so we're here for you. Hay mekalsen kadmai v'amim liha, ha liya, he leya. According to one pshat, they got upset because they saw that all their money was spent on this wedding. So now they started saying hile, but didn't want to say klud. Then afterwards they came in, they shut the lights, they blew out the candles. Says the Medrash, Kol hahu laila havetzavach le Rachel. He said, Rachel. She said, Vihi onole. And she said, she acknowledged, Rachel. Vayihi baboiker, vayi batzafra, vihinehi leah. Look at that.
So Leah light?
Chayra. Omar lo, my Ramosa bas Ramos. Look at you. You're a Ramos, the daughter of Ramos. Ramban says he wanted to give her a get. Ramban learns pshat. She got pregnant right away, right? If she wouldn't have got pregnant, he would have given her a get. As I state in Ramban. He had nothing to do with her. Rachel didn't get pregnant. Took years. And Leah kept on having children. So he saw that obviously this is Bashert. But it didn't change the fact that she was a Ramoy. She had fooled him.
Listen to her answer.
Lav belayla have Karina Rachel vat honestly ich hätte gesagt Rachel, and you kept on saying yes. Omralei is Safra de Lesle Talmidim. Tell me something. Rabbonim have Talmidim. Aruv, what a Talmud? A Rebbe has a Talmud? You're a rabbi, right? I'm your Talmud. You know why? And you said, yeah? Esav, yeah. So I learned from you. Yeah. V'at onile. Yeah. Du bist my Rebbe. You bist my husband and you're my Rebbe. I learned from you. As I state in the Medrash. Let's see. What does the Zera Shimshon have to say about this? Zog the Heilige Zera Shimshon. The Kosha.
Didn't know Beruach HaKodesh?
No, he didn't know Beruach HaKodesh. No, he did not know.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you something even more. I'm going to tell you something more. Yeah, I used to hear this from my cousin, Rebendit Isaac, Yerushalayim Yid. He used to say, do you know how Kodesh V'tar Yankov Avinu was? He says, Meflek Takasha Yankov Avinu to Geben and Ashika and this, like, what's going on? But let me ask you something, he would say. I want to ask you a question. If you live in the same house with a girl that you like for 7 years, in the Zelba house, and they bring somebody else in, you're not going to recognize that? You're not going to know? Yaakov Avinu was in the house, but Yaakov Avinu was Kodesh V'Tahar.
He never looked at it.
Yaakov Avinu was Kodesh V'Tahar. The fact was, that's why we do it now. We pick it up to see who it is, right? But Yaakov, think about it. 7 years zusammen in the Zelba house, in the same house, and Yaakov Avinu doesn't know. And we can him interstellen. And we can go and give somebody else. Look at that, Yaakov Avinu. Derech Hagav, I saw it, I think my Rebbitzin told me, he says in a Medrash, that Yaakov would send presents to Rachel. Lavan would take them and give it to Leah. Lavan Arami. He would take it and give it. Hey, doch Lavan, was willst du? Was willst du? Das ist Lavan. Now the Olam gets upset. Fragt sich Akasha. The Kosha Leah. Now, let me ask you a question, Rabbi Say. The Zera Shimshon's Kasha, Posha the Kasha. So what just happened in the story? So Yaakov Avinu gets upset at Leah. What does she say? What does he say to her? You're a Ramai. What does she say back? I learned from you. I learned from you. This is the way the Imais talk. V'chi b'shvil sheYaakov rima la'omev huter lo l'Ramaisai. Two wrongs make a right. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What do you mean? How did she know? Kanireh, it was mefursam. It was a verse. Why was he there?
And Rachel
You think he didn't know that already?
Rachel knew that also?
Rachel knew what?
That Yaakov was somewhat of a Ramai Esav?
Well, according to as we learned last week, Yaakov had a very good reason to do it. Correct? As we're going to see that as well this week. Right.
But Leah was saying that he didn't.
Right. She said, I'm just doing like you. But the question is you're not addressing the question. Two wrongs don't make a right. Even according Lishitasa, that Yaakov had no right to do it, whether Yaakov was right or wrong. What kind of taina is Leah? We're not talking about kleine kinderlach over here. I mean, it's an interesting story, but we're talking about the avos and the imois. So what's the taina? What's going on? Zog the Heilige Zera Shimshon based on the Gemara and Brachas. Let's learn. We're learning the sugya of Ramos when it's mutter and when it's usr. What's called being a usr dika ramai cholila, and when is it considered mutter?
מותר לשנות בעד השלום.
Omar v'yesh loimer darminim bebrachas v'perakam Rav Huna havale arba me'ois dani dechamra. Rav Huna had a warehouse full of wine. Yoim echada, in one day, all of his wine turned into vinegar. It all turned into vinegar. All legabe Rav Yehuda achved Rav Sala. Rav Yehuda came in, and with the Rabbanan Amalei Lemayin Mar B'Mila. I'll read you the Gemara. They say to him, Rabbi, we heard 400 barrels spoiled. Maybe you should make a cheshbon hanefesh. This obviously doesn't happen by chance. Maybe make a cheshbon hanefesh. Amali michashidu beinechu. You're choshed me? What do you think, I'm a ganav? You're choshed me? So they said back to michashid HaKadosh Baruch Hu beina, and is HaKadosh Baruch Hu choshed? Obviously, if the Rabbeinu Shem did this to you, it's not a coincidence, correct? Amar lahu, so we understood, look at the sensitivity. They knew something was wrong. They didn't tell it to him in Punamaran. They didn't say it to him straight to his face, because that would be disrespectful. So they just hinted to it. He picked up on the hint, and therefore he said back to them, Man deshamu alai milsa lema. If you heard something, tell me. I want to know. If you heard something, tell me. Rav Huna, whose barrels went bad. And every time with Chacham, if somebody knows that somebody's upset with me, please tell me. I want to know. I want to fix it. So he says, I did something wrong. You know something? I'm like, yes. Indeed, Rebbe, we did hear something. What did you hear? What we heard was Shemi Alon. So we heard you haven't paid the wages. You had an Oris who was working with you, 20%, 30%, depending on the Gemara says they're different. You haven't paid the wages of your Oris. That's what we heard. Amalei Mika Shavekli Midi Minei Haganvile Kule. That Oris, he's supposed to deliver to me wages. Do you know how much Ered geganvit from me? Do you know how much he stole from me? Do you know why I didn't pay him wages? Because I got it from me. Says the Gemara Mrulei, aha. Hainu da'amri inshi. Basar ganva ganav. Basar ganva, when one person steals, you find another stealing. Meaning, two wrongs don't make a right. Just because he stole from you and he didn't give you what he had to, doesn't give you the right to now to take away his wages. Look at the lashon of the Zera Shimshon. Right? Basar ganva ganov tama time. You already taste the ganav, meaning you had to go ahead and pay him. Says the Zera Shimshon, I want to share with you what I learned from this Gemara, and this Gemara is going to be your side of Yaakov, Rachel, and Leah. When a person's allowed to outsmart a person who's trying to steal from him, and when a person has to let it go. Zok the Zera Shimshon nimtzo lameidim sha'af lemi sheganav lanu ein anu yecholim lignov loy. A person steals from you, that isn't a license to steal. If a person steals and a person is wrong, two wrongs do not make a right. If my father says Rachel v'zu haisat kushyas Rachel, who hadin b'ramoyim, just like you can't steal from somebody, you can't fool somebody. If my father is a Ramai, how in the world do you have a right to be a Ramai as well? Rachel had a legitimate taina. How do you have a right to be a Ramai? Mishari letzadikim lesguye b'ramoyis. Look at V'ahasam Iskivlei Tov Dinei Chamra. Look at the story. 400 dinim went bad. So who gives you a right to be a Ramai? You know what Yaakov answered? Tiritz Yaakov, but the pasuk says, Im ikesh tispatel, b'may nokim kra, elo. Here's the rule. Vadai kidapirish ridva, the ridva, and Yaakov brings him down. You might not be able, not you for sure cannot, go after somebody because he goes after you, but you could protect yourself not to let him steal from you. If you can outsmart somebody so he doesn't take away from you what rightfully belongs to you, that's not called Ramos. When after the fact, he's taken it away, and now you want to grab back, kilo, a separate act of Geneva, that is prohibited. However, to stop him and outsmart him, he shouldn't steal from you, that you're certainly allowed to do. 1 second, Eliezer. The Sharilon letzadik lemeve tatztiki the evjula hasdure miramosei the Ramai. You can stop the Ramai from taking from you. To go ahead and take something back. Meaning, let's talk about the fellow who lost, Rav Huna lost 400 barrels. Rav Huna lost 400 barrels now. Why did you lose 400 barrels? Because you didn't want to give the person the wages. Why didn't you want to give the person the wages? Because he didn't give you something. Don't go ahead and start doing tit for tat. If you could have stopped him from stealing from you, do whatever you can to stop him from stealing. But after the fact, once he's stolen already, now you want to go ahead and steal back, that's prohibited. So therefore, Uma'ata, Amar Yaakov, so when Rachel said to him, how are you going to go ahead and be a Ramai? You know, Yaakov is saying, I'm going to stop him from doing it before the wedding. I'll stop it before. My Ramos is to not let him give me Leah. My Ramos is to make sure I'll give you the Simonim so that he shouldn't go ahead and do it. That's okay. That's what the pasuk says. 1 second, Eliezer. About. Says the Gemara, Ma'atom Yaakov Leleah Atra Musa. Shani lo misibach Atra Masibi. What did I do? Amar Leeleah loikach tzibach abach. I didn't Abba say you're Esav. Kiloimer mipnei mara Isa avucha. Why did you go ahead and fool your father? Tzorach loimer. I guess what you're going to say is, Hoyo shekvar kanisa ha-bechayra me'esav, since you purchased the bechayra, so therefore habrachos ra'ui lach. As we mentioned last week, when Yaakov told Yitzchak, Ani Esav bechayrecha, was he lying? No, he wasn't. What do you mean he's not lying? You want to give the brachas to the Bechar? I bought the Bechar. The Esav that was your Bechar, you don't know that I bought the Bechara. I want to be Meisav a Knech that we spoke about last week. We mentioned this in the past. When a person wants to give a bracha, if you want to give a bracha, you have a son. We'll call him Esav. Are you Esav? Yes. I'm giving Esav a bracha. What does it help that Yaakov Avinu wears Esav's clothing and he says, I'm Esav. But he already told you I'm giving the bracha to Esav. What's your name? Your name is Yaakov. So how are you getting the bracha? If I have in mind to give a bracha to this and this person and someone else comes and impersonates that, but you're not that person. So how's the bracha working here? The bracha going, the teretz is Ani Esav b'chayrecha. Why do you want to give the brachas to Esav? Because you want him to take care of me. Yisachar Zvulun, correct? I don't have a Zvulun. He's not doing this. He's not taking care of me. So you want me to take care of him? I'll take care of me. Anoichi, the job that you're looking for, which is the Esav job of the Bechar, I bought that. So says Leah to Yaakov, so what are you telling me? You were allowed to trick him. You know why? You were allowed to trick him because you said Magia Lecha. Because the Bechira belongs to you. Because in order to stop somebody, you weren't taking Esav's brachas. You were holding on to your brachas. Because you're tining that because you bought the Bechira and the brachas go to the Bechar, so you're retaining. You're not, that's what you're saying, right? It's a kimtir. You're meaning, I'm going to make sure that Esav doesn't steal my brachas, because now they're mine. Listen to me, Yaakov. In our country here, the older girl gets married first. You're taking away my rights by taking my younger sister. So I'm taking back my rights. In the same way, it says the Dubner Magid. Do you know what they would say on the street? Hagodol legedoilo, vahaktana lekoton. The big one to the big one, the small one to the small. You ever heard that in Lashon the Medrash? Hagedoilo lekoton. Zuk the Dubner Magid, it doesn't say Leah to Esav. It says Gedoyla legadol. Oh, you became the Gadol because you bought the Bechar Beseder. So then you're mine too. Bisgevarin the Gedoyla. You Bisgevarin the Gadol. It doesn't say that Esav and Leah. What everybody said is the big one to the big one. You became the big brother. You Magia Lecha HaBechar, then Magia Lecha me too. Then I'm also the one. Said. Because she cried and she ripped herself away from that, she davened that Yaakov should be successful in getting the brachas. She davened that Yaakov should be the Gadol. If Yaakov's the Gadol, then she didn't daven that she shouldn't. Her zivig was the Gadol. So she davened if Yaakov should be the Gadol, then Gadol legedoyle, then kenich zayin. That's the Dumne Magid's word. She davened that I've been davening for your success. Because when I daven for your success, then I'm in your chelik too. Kanira, I once said this over years ago. I looked to try to find the Medrash. In Yitzchak's mind, if Rachel and Leah were supposed to be the two that are going to have all the kinderlach, who are they going to have? From Yaakov and Esav together. He'll have Shvatim and he'll have Shvatim. Rachel v'Tobin and Leah v'Tobin together. They'd be Shutfim, like Yisachar and Zvulun. But Yaakov Avinu has to get the brachas from Esav, so he has to become the God of, he has to come to the Gadol. He has to take over Leah's as well too. Tichben the Gedoyle as well. V'abracha shoyrur l'cham b'nei shat b'char Gadol. Afani asisi kach. Ata ratzisa likach es Rachel neged minig mekaymeinu. You want to go and take Rachel away. Ani ishtadalti lihizor mela'avatayna saroyli. So I'm the one who get yibis the Gadol. If you're the Gadol, so you come to me. If Rachel would marry you, then it would come out you're not marrying the Gedoyla. You're marrying the Ketana. That's not fair. Well, I'm doing exactly what you're doing. I'm allowed to do it because that's the kind of Ramos, which is mutter. My Rabbi say, you see, and I'll finish with this. You see, once the world had submerged into darkness, after the Chet of Adam Harishon, and the world was a place, Orur Ha'adama. In order for the world to be reestablished, all of the koiches hakedusha had to be schlepped out from all the koiches hatumah. The more kedusha, the more it was surrounded with tumah. It's not a coincidence that Rachel and Leah, the two people who were responsible to Shtelevek Klal Yisrael, the Heilige Imois, were Dafke in the house of such a Ramai, such a swindler, such an unscrupulous person, taking Rachel's presents and giving it to the older sister, stealing from the whole town. Because when Yaakov is bringing them to him, he's pulling them out from the tzad. They're Kaddish, like Rivka was Kaddish. But you have to take them out from the grasps of the Tumah and bring them, mamish, like, the Koiches HaKedusha, which is found in all those Koiches HaKlipa, like a damsel in distress. You have to bring them out from all those Koiches to bring them to tzad HaKedusha. Even in Inzer Golis, where we find ourselves so surrounded with tumah, there's probably never been a time in the history of the world where there's so much tumah. Not yours is I'm sure filtered, right?
Not more than the Dora Mabel.
Every-
Because we're not, they were destroyed, we're here.
They didn't have phones, if it's unfiltered, you could see Kol Davar Asur.
But they did other worse things.
When you grew up, Nebuch, right, in our generation, right?
I didn't have a
there was no phones, right?
Yeah, payphone for a
What
dime.
baby? You couldn't get anything on that either. There was nothing. Nish gewen kein Tumah. Right? There was only magazines. Nebuch. Right?
Oh, yes.
And there wasn't on right, and there wasn't on it. Now all Kol Davar Asur Sheba Oilam. Every tumah that a person cholilos shavol nishkitin is all here at the palm of your hand, 1 or 2 clicks away. 1 or 2 clicks away. So we're living in such a matzav of unfiltered tumah. And the koiches hanefesh, the koiches hanefesh, that it takes a person to be able to pull themselves away and have the koiches to say, no, I'm not looking. I'm not going to contaminate myself. I'm going to have something that's very hard. But it's in every single yid. Where does it come from? Because this is what the Avos HaKadoshim did. They pulled out all the Kedusha from the most tumadika places. The path has already been set. It's in our DNA, it's in our genes. The only thing is that a person has to believe that he can tap into that energy and pull out those koiches. A person has to know that as bleak as sometimes he might think it is, and it's so hard and it's such a big nisayon, it is. But there's still koiches, because Gans Klal Yisrael was created through the koich of taking kedusha from Tumah, from Lavan out of his house, from Besuel, from Terach, all the biggest Tumadika places, Ammon and Moav, David HaMelech, all kedusha came from Tumadika places. All Kedusha came, Klal Yisrael came from Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was the biggest, the ergste. Ke'eretz, the ergste Tumadika Platz. And Dorten, that's where Klal Yisrael came from. And Azoivi ki meitzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim erenu neflois, that Klal Yisrael has the koyach of Kedusha, to be able to find the Kedusha within ourselves. As the Golis comes to an end, and we find ourselves surrounded with all this tumah, a yid has to know, if there's so much tumah, there's so much tahara. There's so much kedusha, and you can pull out. And sometimes you have to be baramos, and sometimes you have to trick the Yetzer Hara. You have to fool him and give him a little bit of his medicine to not let him take away the kedusha that's inside of us. So mezeiches and be'ezus Hashem yisbarach b'karev mamish, we should see be'ezus Hashem all of this negativity batul umevutul, so that the kedusha of Klal Yisrael should shine b'nei Rabbi Ameinu.
Amen.